I'm not really here to like address opinions. You're allowed to have them. You know what I mean? You're allowed to have your specific viewpoints. What I do want to address is if I see any misconceptions, something that's not true, or something that needs to be clarified. So with that being said, before I get into the questions, I did a recent live with creator, whatever I call it. And he asked me a question, actually, if I could go back and change anything about the adoption. And I answered, honestly, from my perspective, right? Like you're asking me if I would change anything. And I said, I would change the agency of how I did it, or, I would have changed how I did it. And I would have changed who I chose to raise Carly. And listen, that doesn't mean and doesn't equal that I think Carly's parents are bad. I think they are amazing parents. They have raised amazing kids. Carly is smart. She's intelligent. She from what I can see, at least she is talented. She's kind. You know what I mean? So when I say that, I'm saying I would change who I chose to place her based off of from my own experience. That does not mean that I believe they are not good parents. I mean, let me put it out there. I think they're great parents. I think we have a lot of differing belief systems and opinions on, how we live our lives and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. That's fine. But that doesn't mean that I, just because I would choose somebody else, doesn't mean that I think that they're bad parents. I think they're great parents. Like I said, they're the ones that took care of her whole life. I will never be more grateful for that. I can't be more grateful for them, giving her the life that she has. Okay. That's something that I will never not be grateful for. He asked me that question personally, and that was my answer. And I stand by it because I don't believe me saying, hey, I would have chose different parents means that I'm saying they're horrible parents and that Carly's having a horrible life. That's not what I'm saying. So I wanted to make sure that was clear. And honestly, one thing that I would like to add is that I wish I could go back in time and spend more time talking to families and getting to know them on a different level before choosing to place Carly, because we didn't get a lot of time and we didn't really get to know them outside of the adoption professional exchange, that kind of stuff. So I also want to address the fact that I'm seeing a lot of stuff that we continued to break boundaries with them, or cross boundaries, or not respect their boundaries regarding posting a picture online. And I want to make it very clear, I have never posted a picture that was not approved by them. And the only time that I did post a picture without their approval was when I was, I think, 21 years old or something. I don't even know, 19, 20 years old, way back then. And I posted a collage thing, and that's when we had a huge issue with it. And we went and had that conversation, and it was filmed, and Kate was pregnant with Noah, and you guys probably all remember all that. But I have not violated that request after that. Every picture that I've ever posted of Carly was with their approval. The back of her head. They this is what they told us. They said if it's the back of her head, it's fine. So I don't know where this idea or perception is that we continuously broke their rules or their boundaries or whatever. It's just not the case. So I wanted to get that out there. And also the fact that just because me saying I wish I could go back and do things differently does not mean that I'm saying I think they're horrible parents, because that's not true. That's just me going back from my own perspective and saying that. And I understand people's perception of saying, hey, do you think that could hurt Carly if she sees that you're saying you wish they were different parents? And I hope not. I hope that's not. That's why I wanted to do this and kind of clear the air. No, that's not at all. I'm very grateful for them and what they've given Carly. I will always be grateful for that. It's not something that I'm freaking out about or anything like that. So I think it's interesting though, because if I would have said, if the question were to ask me, hey, do you regret anything? Would you change anything about your adoption plan? And if I would have answered that question and said, I would have never placed her, everyone would have been fine with that answer. But what they don't understand is that answer is exactly what I said. She would have had different parents, which would have been us. So I'm confused on me saying, oh, I would have picked different parents as this huge, like, bad thing. You were asking it from my perception, not from Carly's perception. She loves her parents, and I believe that she wouldn't choose any other parents than the one she's got, which is a good thing. I want her to believe this. I want her to think this. This is important. You know what I mean? Like, she loves her parents, and I respect that wholeheartedly, right? But I think it's ironic that if I would have answered that question and said, I wish I would have never placed her for adoption, you guys would have been everyone would have been like, oh yeah, of course. They would have accepted that answer. But even though that answer literally is the same thing as me saying I would have picked different parents for her, because it would have been different parents for her. So anyway, I want to make sure that was clear. Because moving forward with expressing our truths and sharing our story, it's really important for me to get the facts straight. I'm actually I just asked Dawn. I said I want my whole file. We have to put in a request to get this file. I want the whole file. I will go through this file with you guys, and we will go through everything, and we'll go through everything in that file, and also talk about what was verbally said as we were children reading this piece of paper that's not legally binding. I want to go through it and talk about what things were verbally agreed upon versus what was in the paperwork. And I think it's important because people are very, very adamant on that's what the agreement was. They, this is what up until their discretion and this year 5 thing or whatever. And it's like, listen, we understand that's what's in the paperwork, but that's not what was exchanged verbally. And at 16 years old, I never signed a contract in my life. I'm not looking at the fine print. I'm trusting the adults that are around me who are telling me these things verbally, and making these promises, etc. So, I think that's kind of an important detail to point out. I think some people forget the fact that I was not a fully aware, mature adult when I signed this agreement. And, obviously it'd be different if I was fully an adult, or even, it would be different even if I had representation with me to say, hey, you know what this means? Hey, look down here. Do you understand? You know what I mean? So, but that didn't happen because that's not how the adoption agencies work. That's just the truth of the matter. That's what it was. So, I understand, that the contract or the agreement said certain things. I take full accountability for signing that agreement. Okay. But I don't take full accountability for signing the agreement knowing all those little details, because like I said, verbally things were different. And also the fact that it was an open adoption and continued to have yearly visits, totally eliminate, it clearly by action and by repeating these visits, it null and voided some of the stuff that was in that paperwork originally. You know what I mean? We opened up more, and they thankfully opened up more. It took a while. We didn't really know that we'd have to wait to know their last name and all that kind of stuff, and whatever, which I talk about that in my other video. But yeah, so adoption is very complex. It's super unique to each individual who's involved with it. Circumstances are unique in every single situation for every adoptee, birth parent, adopted parent, all that stuff. So I think it's important to understand that the context is always going to be different with all different adoptions. But that's why I spent so much time, talking to adoptees. That's why I spent so much time talking to adopted parents. And I had to say, and I'll show all this if people want, but I am flooded with messages from adoptees and adoptive parents who are talking about the similarities of our situation as far as birth parents go, and then adoptive parents saying, I wish that we had birth parents that were actively involved in trying to have contact. And I have a lot of adoptive parents that think that it was not right to completely cut off contact without any kind of talking about what was going on. So, but I've gotten enough explanation, and I gotten enough details from adoptees to where it's even more like, all right, this is very important that I speak these truths, because a lot of these adoptees have the same They have the same exact trauma. They have the same exact, desires and wants and confusion and everything. And so I think it's super important that we're having this conversation, even for the ones out there that don't agree with us and think that we're overstepping and we need to let it go. And I honestly understand what you're saying. I totally get it, that like, from your perspective, yeah, let it go. You gave your rights away. You have no rights to her. You're telling me things I already know. I know I have no rights to her. I know I'm not owed an explanation. I know I'm not really owed or deserve anything. However, I believe that as decent human beings and adults, how do you clarify and make dynamics in relationships work? Well, you communicate. And so you can have your opinion all you want about, like all this stuff, but at the end of the day, like communication is vital. It's the only thing that keeps relationships going, and not just any communication, authentic, genuine communication. So anyway, like that's where I'm at. I mean, I'll be continuing to talk about this. I think one thing that people don't understand is the reason why I'm doing this is because I have learned too much that I didn't know before. I have learned too much about adoptees and what they go through, and they really do deserve a voice. They deserve an opportunity to know things, regardless of if their parents believe so or not. They are owed. They deserve that information. They deserve to know about the questions they have and why they might have them, and like that's important. So yeah, and anyone thinking that I'm doing this for any other reason, sure. That's fine. Like I said, I'm not here to I'm not going to address like opinions, right? Because you're allowed to have them. You're not in my position. You haven't seen everything that's happened behind the scenes and behind closed doors and all that stuff. So you're allowed to have that opinion. That's fine. But I do want to come on here and make sure I correct things, clarify things, or expand on things if need be. And those are the things that, I wanted to talk about. So, yeah, I mean, it was supposed to be an open adoption. We agreed upon this. I don't really care what that, handshake agreement, not legally binding piece of paper says. I was a kid when I signed it anyway. So what I care about, and this is something Brand and Teresa both know, what we talked about verbally, the conversations we've had about certain things, what we shouldn't do, what we should do. They know what they approved of and what we agreed upon. They know this. So that's why I don't have any fear. That's why I'm doing this, because they know, and I know they know, what we talked about. So, like I said, I think Brand and Teresa are great parents. I think they have every right to make these decisions based off of Carly's best interests, right? They have the right to do so. But at the same time, if what their decisions are could potentially, not be good for her or restrict her from knowing certain things, I would have to disagree. I disagree with that. I don't think that's right. So anyway, that's the main reason why I think it's important to get this stuff out there. And like I said, you guys can hate me for it, whatever. I don't care. I'm not doing this for your approval. I'm not doing this for your respect. I could care less what you think about this whole situation. And if you have a different opinion that doesn't align with my own, that's fine. That's okay. I accept that. I think it's good because we're going to talk about it anyway, but I don't care about any of that. What I care about is Carly having this information if she desires to seek it out. And that's what we're doing. And I think people saying, well, just hush, take a step back, wait till she's 18, don't say anything. It's like, you guys don't understand that in the adoption world, in the community, that is all we're taught to do. That is all we are said to do. The moment we say anything that is negative or whatever, we're silenced. And I'm telling you guys, I will not just sit back and wait and not fight for this. I don't understand. I'm going to fight for her to have this information. And I'm not just going to sit here and wait till she's 18. Why would I just do that? parents, you fight for your kids. And I believe that Brand and Teresa's intentions, like they believe that they're doing the right thing. And I understand all that. I just don't know why they're not communicating about certain things and why they're not willing to look at the other side of what adoptees have to go through and what possible, identity crisis and genetic mirroring trauma they have to, I just hope that they are understanding all that stuff. So yeah. I'd have more peace about this if I knew it was Carly who wanted this distance. If I knew it was Carly who wanted this limited access or wanted, told Brand and Teresa, hey, cut them off. I don't want anything. I would have so much more peace with that. And if that is the case, I would hope Brand and Teresa would have said that by now, because we've, like I said, for years, we're like, hey, tell us what we did wrong. Tell us how we could do something better and all that kind of stuff. They had so many opportunities to advocate for Carly by telling us this is what she wants. And like I said, we don't know. We're not deserved. They don't owe us that. I just think it's common sense to express those things if there's an issue, or you know what I mean, you want to fix something. So, or at least get your opinion out there, whatever. So yeah, I mean that's how I feel. I respect everybody who has an opinion to say on this. I mean, I think your opinion is valid. I just want your opinion to be filtered through facts and truth, and not from confirmation bias, and not from a limited perspective or understanding of adoptees and the trauma that comes with adoption. So that's all. That's all I'm really trying to do. These. All these posts and stuff, there's no ill intention, there's no malice behind any of it. It's literally just truth. That's it. And I think in this adoption community and in this adoption world, and people who are in that world, they know this. They know that, especially birth parents are meant to be silenced. You don't talk about this. Adoptees are meant to feel, scared to mention or even speak about the desire to connect with their bio family. I really encourage everyone to look up pre-verbal trauma, the cortisol levels that happen in infants that causes permanent neurological damage from having the baby not be with the mom right out of the womb. I think people should learn about genetic mirroring and that trauma. I think people should go and research the percentage of adoptions where birth parents say, 95%, you guys, 95% of all adoptions that occur, the parents say if we had adequate resources, we would not have done it. So with that being said, and this is for adoptees out there, I want you to know 95%, that's a huge number, right? Your birth parent did not want to do it. They didn't want this at all. They were in a crisis situation. They were young, ill-informed, and not supported. And that is why they did what they did. And I think that's I want that to be very clear. I mean, there's so many things. I just feel like there's so many things that people don't understand that I wish kind of would be talked about more. I think we're so used to glorifying adoption. It's a beautiful thing, and we'll be grateful that you have this family. And adoptees really struggle with this idea that, if I mention I want to reach out to my birth parents, I'm not grateful enough. And society kind of has this looming expectation that birth parents should also be grateful that someone's raising their child. And I am grateful. Don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful. But that doesn't mean that I don't have other extreme feelings and emotions behind it. It doesn't mean that it's not painful. It doesn't mean any of those. So, yeah, I just feel like a lot of things aren't understood. And I feel like, yeah, I don't know. And people say, it's what's in the best interest of Carly. And that's kind of my whole point, because you can say that me talking about all this stuff is not good for her or not in her best interest. But at the end of the day, statistics prove otherwise. So you're saying, this is in Carly's best interest, but statistics do prove otherwise, that adoptees who have more information about all this stuff, the more healthy they are, the more they don't struggle with their identity and stuff. So I think, this isn't what's in best interest of Carly for you to be talking about all this stuff. It's like, well, statistics prove otherwise. So like I said, do the research, please. And don't just go off of like what your opinion, whatever, without knowing this kind of stuff. So I would like to answer some questions now if everyone, if they're down for it. So this says, if Brand and Teresa reached out now, would you be willing to have an open and honest conversation with them? That's all I ever wanted. Okay. That's all me and Kate have ever asked for. Yes. We even asked once. She said, we don't want to have contact anymore because Kate posted about her disappointment not having a visit. We asked, whoa, like it was so extreme. You're like, okay, well, can we talk about this? Let's get on the phone and talk. Let's figure this out. And if that conversation leads to the same result, okay, that's fine. But at least we talked about it. At least we had peace knowing we wouldn't even be doing this. We wouldn't even be having this conversation. Even if the result was the same, that, hey, we're still going to cut off contact, but at least we had a conversation about it. This whole blindsiding, just cutting, it's just not sitting right. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, that's all we've ever wanted. That's all we've ever asked for, was to just have an open and honest communication with them. And it's never been that way. It's always had to go through Dawn. We've always had to be kind of like doctored, or like, we always had to be filtered and like, this is what we're going to talk about. It's never been just fluid. Like, how like, if someone's like, hey man, you really hurt my feelings. Like, and then someone's like, oh my God, really, I'm so sorry. What happened? What can I do? Like, and they actually just talk. That's never happened with us. Even though we've tried, like, so yeah, it's hard to fix anything. It's hard to mend anything. It's hard to change anything if I don't know what the problem is. And that's my whole point. So anyway, yeah, good question. Great. Oh, right here. Okay. If Brand and Teresa said, this is Carly's decision, would you be able to believe it? Yes. Yeah, I'd have to. I'd have no choice. And I don't wish that was the truth. I'd have more peace. If they said, this is Carly's decision, she doesn't want to talk to you, she wants something to do with you, whatever, I'd be like, of course, devastated and sad, but I'd be like, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't have to. Because I'd have to take it at face value for what they're saying. And of course I believe them. I would have to believe them. Even if I had doubts I'd have to believe them, because I also want people to understand there's a thing that adoptees go through called the adoptee fog. It's it's way too long to explain, honestly. But if you're genuinely interested in understanding that whole thing, I really encourage you to look up adoptee fog and the fog that they have to go through, which is another result of trauma. That if they don't have the proper resources, information, education, and support, they'll go through that alone. And so yeah, even if it was Carly saying I don't want anything to do with them, I would believe it and I would respect it, and I wouldn't even be having this conversation. However, I also think that might be the fog. I mean, like it's a thing. I don't want to get too deep, but yeah, I would believe it because I'd have to. Does Dawn and the agency still support you and Kate? So Dawn has always supported me and Kate. We've always, as far as the agency goes, I don't know about now. I mean, me and Kate, one of our first jobs that we had after placing Carly was, besides being a pizza boy and being a retail and caregiver, was we went and spent like 2 years going across the whole world, really, with Bethany Christian Services and doing speaking engagements and just talking about our adoption story at universities. Great experience. It was great. We were super young, and I think looking back at it now, I know that that we were birth parents who were grieving and trying to come to terms with our decision. And so it's very common for birth parents to get involved in adoption positive movements, possibly even get a job at adoption agencies to try to like it's a thing where we try to like kind of heal ourselves by understanding more and getting more involved in the whole adoption world in different branches of that. And so that's what we did. Dawn has always supported us, and I think she will continue to do so. She's our best advocate. We love her to death. But as far as the agency goes, I'm pretty sure they don't really support us anymore, especially after the more I will release information, the more I talk about the truths regarding that agency, they probably won't, want anything to do with it. Great question. Is this affecting your other daughters? So Nova definitely she's understanding a little bit more, and it does affect her. Veda and Raya are still so little, they don't really get it. But Nova has memories. She has memories of going to visit Carly. She loves her. She think about it. When you're Nova's age and you have this, big sister out there who you naturally look up to them and just want to know them and just want to be with them and hang out with them. So Nova definitely knows something's up, I think. We haven't really told Nova that we're cut off and that we won't have contact with them anymore. And I don't think we really will tell her until, she asks to FaceTime or something. And then we, had to obviously tell her the deal. But it definitely does affect our other daughters. And I want to be super specific on this because also talking to a lot of adoptees, the sibling relationship, more than the bio parents, which at this point we don't even care about us, but the biological siblings, that is their closest peer, right? That is their closest genetic mirroring that they have, that they can identify with and connect with and just have a relationship. Like that is the siblings, bio siblings are they're super important for adoptees. So even for that sake, Brand and Teresa, you don't have to like us. You don't have to agree with mine and Kate's lifestyle. It's not necessary. But for the kids' sake and for, her bio sisters, I think, that's something you should consider, to be honest. But do you hold any hard feelings toward Dawn regarding the fine print you mentioned earlier? No. I think Dawn was doing her job. And I think at that moment, her job was to help us place and get Brand and Teresa, their child, to be parents. So I don't think she was, I don't blame her for the fine print or all that stuff that maybe we didn't understand at that young age. We have spoken with Dawn since being blocked, and we've been very transparent. We've been open with each other. We've been, talking about the best way to move forward. We've tried kind of getting her advice on how do we navigate this? What do we do now? And I have to say, we appreciate all of her, guidance, but at the same time, a lot of that guidance is kind of the same as far, we've been hearing this, just be hushed, just be quiet, just be silent, just wait. And I just don't really agree with that. So, and I don't agree with it for Carly's sake. If I was out there as an adoptee and knew, okay, you just gave up, you just stopped trying, that's weird to me. I will never stop trying for all my children. I don't care what anyone says. I will continue to try until they say your contact is harming me. Whoa, then I will totally respect it. But like I said, that has not happened yet. That has not happened at all. I've never gotten that information that me trying to contact is harming. So until that's the reality, I will continue to try. I think that's our duty as parents. If you feel there needs to be, you know what I mean? You got to keep trying for the parent, right? So this question talks about was Carly engaging with you and Kate and her sisters during visits? Yes, we had a great, it was amazing. Actually, I have to say, the last visit that we had 2 years ago was it was amazing. It was the most one-on-one time that me and Kate got to have with Carly, kind of without anyone around. And all the visits we've had before that, that never happened. It was always like, Brand and Teresa either standing there, or they would like, even if me and Carly would walk off to like part of the slide at the playground, so we never really got the specific one-on-one time. But yeah, they're really, really, really engaged with each other. And I tell you what, Carly is like, she is such a nurturing child. Like, she naturally has this like almost maternal nurturing, just she's like, oh no, I'd be like, have my eyes on Veda telling her to go somewhere, and then Raya would be over here, and before I would even, like, the moment I'd be like, oh Raya, no, like Carly'd say, oh Raya, come here, like, be careful. Like, it was like, it was beautiful to watch. Honestly, it was great. So yeah, they were having a good time with each other. Another one. Do you think Carly will reach out when she's 18? I hope so. I think she will, because most adoptees, that's what they do, based off of my experience in talking to them, and that they always reach out when they're able to, or when they feel that they have the freedom to do so without harming their adoptive parents' feelings, etc. They're out of the fog. Like I said, look it up. But yeah, so I do think she'll reach out when she has the freedom to do so. However, I don't know if it'll be when she's 18. Everyone thinks that 18 is this magic number where she's gonna just burst from the seams and have this freedom and get on a train or a plane or something. And it's like, that's not reality, because even when she's 18, she's still going to be living at home under the, guide of her parents. And she still may possibly be trying, not to ruffle any feathers and keep her parents happy and all that kind of stuff. So it might not be when she's 18. However, I believe when she gets the freedom and the safety and security to kind of like engage in that freedom and use it, I think she will. So, and I can't wait for that, to be honest. And another part of me is like, I can't wait for that to happen, not because I have this fantasy, and I want to get this very clear. I don't have this fantasy of like, Carly getting older and running to us and wanting to like live with us and stay with us and just whatever. Like, I don't, that's unrealistic. I don't have that fantasy. I can't wait for the clarification to happen. That's going to come with that inevitable reaching out, whatever. Like, and that could mean her saying, "I hate you. You ruined my life. You didn't do anything right. Whatever." Like, and I will just accept that. I'll have no choice. It'd be hard to hear it, but I can take accountability. I would never try to rob her of that freedom to express how her adoption has affected her. By me trying to like explain my situation or whatever. Like, I'm not going to try to justify it. If it's coming from her and she's expressing it herself, it's her time to speak. And I would never like try to correct her or, like I said, fact check and stuff like that. My job would be just to listen and bow my head, say I'm sorry, and just tell her that I love her, and that's it. And I'll be here if you ever want to, have a relationship. So, I see what's going on. So the question, okay, all right, I'm getting it now, guys. I don't do a lot of live, so bear with me. Do you think money and fame change the dynamics between you and Brand and Teresa? No, I don't really. The money and fame doesn't make anybody who they are. So I don't think that really changed the dynamics. I think it was something that Brand and Teresa probably didn't expect. It's like our situation is so unique and so rare that me and Kate stayed together and we had more future children. That's really rare for biological, like full-blooded biological siblings to be in the mix. That's very rare. So I don't think they expected me and Kate to kind of continue to be together and have our own children and whatever. And actually have the financial stability to have more kids and have a decent, life. So, yeah. All right. Have Brand and Teresa ever bothered to share how Carly was doing, school, interests, etc.? Yes, they've always, they told us stuff that she's doing. However, there's been multiple times where we've asked questions just through text, like, hey, what is she doing this year? We wouldn't get a response forever. Like, and like I said, a lot of the responses that we got from them felt very like pulled. Like it wasn't natural. It wasn't like organic. It was like we wouldn't get a response. So we contact Dawn and say, hey, Dawn, have you heard any, like, do you have any further information about why we're not getting a response? It's a simple question. We're just asking if she liked the present we got her. We're just asking if, she's still into, this character or this like movie or whatever. Like, does she still want, these kind of hair clips? Like, does she like this stuff still? Like, and it just simple questions that me and Kate, I don't think ever really thought would be a problem getting the answers to. We don't think we're owed the answers. We just think it's common sense to just, let us know. I guess it's not that hard. And especially when it comes to gifts, I think that was one thing that me and Kate were really like, God, why don't you just say, yeah, she loved the gift, or, she doesn't really like, that character anymore, or whatever. Like, just, yeah, anyway, but, yeah, we would get information when it was like, kind of just, I just felt pulled. It felt like, tug of war a little bit. We finally would get the answers, and it would be a very, politically correct, almost rehearsed answer, if that makes sense. Like I said, which isn't a bad thing. I think that's just, like I said before, I think it's just a difference in communication style. I think it's just a difference in, our culture. You're Southern, I'm Midwest. Like, it's just, so I don't think even if their response was rehearsed, I think that's fine. I think that's their way of being like mature and making sure that they're saying all the right things and being, non-confrontational, whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much how that works. We have asked before, finding out that she's in violin and she plays violin, and she's really great at it. We asked to just, can you get a recording? Cause she was like doing this like orchestra thing where she's playing in a band, and we said, oh my God, we would love to see her playing violin. Like, that'd be awesome. Like, hey, next time you're at the thing, can you just send us a quick clip? That took, oh my gosh, you guys, that was like pulling teeth. And we just, and like we said, when we asked these questions, we were like very adamant, like, we'll delete it the moment we see it. We won't share, we won't even share with our parents and anyone in our family. Like, we just wanted to see her, play the violin. Like, I don't know. So, stuff like that, very difficult, to get those answers and stuff for her interests and her hobbies. Okay, it says, do you ever try to put yourselves in their shoes and how they probably want to live their life without feeling like they have to upkeep these relationships with you guys? I do. Me and Kate, that's all we've ever done. That's all we've ever done this whole time was try to tiptoe, try to eggshell, make sure that Brand and Teresa are good, make sure we're not saying the wrong things, make sure that we're being respectful with our language we're using, and all that kind of stuff. So and that's what has made me not speak about it before, in a way, because I'm like, God, I just don't want to I don't want to make them feel like we're not putting ourselves in their shoes. That's all we've ever done. And like I said, I can't imagine not being able to have your own biological child and having to go through adoption to fulfill your dream of becoming a parent. That's got to be really difficult. However, this question says, put yourself in their shoes and how they probably want to live their life without feeling like they have to upkeep these relationships with you guys. That's where it gets tricky. It's not that you shouldn't feel like you have to upkeep this relationship with us. It should be an unnegotiable necessity, because you wouldn't be a parent without us, and you wouldn't have been able to fulfill this dream and raise this child without us. So I feel like it's like you should want to upkeep the relationship with us. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should want that. And not just for us, but for Carly's sake, you should want that. Because unfortunately you can't have your own children, so this is the route you had to go. And so these are the cards you've been dealt. And I feel like it's kind of, your duty to not only upkeep, but want to have the desire to upkeep the relationship. So that's just, how I feel. But